Hello everyone, welcome to or back to the new grid. I'm Kyle, and in today's video I'm going to do a little bit about human reaction time versus AI reaction time. So comparing my reaction times versus autopilot. So in these clips I react basically when I think I need to, and then I'm going to guess about when the AI, when it's full self-driving, would have reacted to these events and see how it would have done. So this is a little bit different format than I've done before. I'm going to show you the clip, and then I'm going to slow down that clip and talk a little bit more detail about it at that time. So with that, I do want to say that this is all using full self-driving beta 10.10.2, and I'd like to say that this build has been very good. It's had a lot of major improvements over previous builds. So the first thing I do want to show you before I get into the reaction time is I'd like to show you that it actually can perform a left-hand turn at a blinky yellow light. This is something I've not seen it do before, so I wanted to show you this clip. So as you see, it basically moved right through that intersection, and then I did have to take over once it got through there. That was because there was some debris in the roadway where Beta was wanting to travel, which you could argue that Beta may have been in a weird situation there, because technically there should be a white line painted for a turn lane going in towards the right there also, and it decides to just kind of straddle those two lanes even though there's not lane markings. So that's kind of odd, a very odd situation where it just picked that for its path. Another thing I'd like to mention about that is an updated traffic controller. I know a little bit about traffic controllers and whatnot, and I've done some software that has gone into traffic controllers as I'm a computer programmer. And I really don't think there's an advantage to training an AI neural net for stoplights, because there's so many different situations that a traffic signal needs to account for that AI can account for those, but I don't think it really makes sense. I think that the intersections where people are having issues with red lights and having to stay at them for long times and whatnot, I think those are either isolated to too much traffic on the roadways or too little in different times, where mainly either newer traffic signal or potentially a better traffic engineering solution could be designed for that intersection. So I don't really think AI needs to be used for traffic controllers. There's a lot of advantages to the way that everything's working in a network together right now that it might actually break some of that and make traffic even worse. So now on to the human versus AI part. So this clip is where I'm just kind of letting full self-driving beta drive me. It's getting ready to turn at the right hand turn ahead and whatnot. And then a Walmart truck comes out in front of me, and I take over to slow down when I recognize that it's in my lane. So that's pretty much so how this happened. So now let's kind of break it down frame by frame. I will pause at certain points, but I'm playing it back at about 25% speed. So first thing you can kind of notice is that the Walmart truck has their turn signal on in front of me. And even though they're not in the right turn lane, that's at least signifying that maybe it's trying to get over. But in this case, as we know, it basically turned in front of me. So here's the point where I decide that I take over. As you can see, the Walmart truck is clearly in my lane, but if you look at the screen on beta, it doesn't recognize that yet. So now let's go forward a little bit more. So here, about a second later, this is where beta really realizes, hey, this Walmart truck is in this lane. So at this point, I would believe that beta would be stopping. Now, I don't know that for sure, but that is about a second down from where I took over originally. So that's kind of where I'm thinking that it would take over. So now if we keep on going a few more seconds out, as it plays on, I'm slowing down, and there's the point where I've basically reached my minimum speed. I reach 7 miles an hour and think, well, I don't really need to slow down anymore. I can continue on. So I continue on for a little bit longer, and then the truck has been cleared. So I had plenty of time for stopping, and I think with that second delay, beta would definitely have enough time to have stopped too. So, and it wouldn't have been too harsh. Now I think beta would have probably overreacted and realized, whoa, we've got something in front of us, and start slowing down faster rate than what I had slowed down. But I do think that even if it slowed down at the rate that I did, it would have been able to come to a complete stop before it actually got to that intersection. So in that case, it would have performed fine. It's just my reaction time, and as you can see with the visualization, was a lot quicker than what beta would have done. So before I move on to the next clip, please consider subscribing and liking to this video if you like this kind of content. So this next clip is how beta performs with a pedestrian on the roadway. So there's a pedestrian walking on the roadway, and it needs to go around them, or I need to take over. So I kind of just let it go through and decide that, okay, I need to take over at this point. So I took over and continued on. So let's break that down, slow it down to about a quarter speed, and see how beta is reacting to this person. As you can see, going through this roundabout, beta clearly sees that there is a person there. So there's a person walking there, and they see it. So let's continue on a little bit. At the point I take over, you can see that that pedestrian is now kind of afraid, and they're starting to step up onto the side of the road. I'm taking over because I don't think beta is going to go around them far enough, and I guess I knew that pedestrian was going to be worried at that point, which they were clearly, because they were getting off the side of the road, and they continued to get off the side of the road. So then I basically, it's my driving, taking over, and that's basically how I believe that you should be passing a pedestrian when possible. Because there are some cases where you do have to get a little bit closer, but in this case there's no cars around. I could go over there. There's plenty of room because there was kind of an extra lane there. It was a turn-in lane, but there was plenty of room. I could have went around them. So I took advantage and used that to my advantage. So that's another thing that beta needs to do. It kind of optimizes to do the minimum amount of movement around objects or people. So then just a little further down the road, over the railroad, we get into a situation where we're passing a FedEx truck, and I decide to take over halfway through because I'm afraid that I might hit that FedEx driver, or it would hit the FedEx driver if they were to get in the driver's side door. So let's kind of break this one down. It's going along, and at this point you can kind of see that FedEx driver walking up to their truck. And then further on, we're getting really close to this FedEx truck, and that's where I end up taking over to go around them. Now, they did get in the passenger side door, so there wasn't really an issue there, but I do think beta needs to be more careful around cars and not hug them so tight, because you could have someone in there and just ready to open their door, and you're going right by them, or someone's ready to walk around a car in this potential case, and there could be something bad that happens. So that's something that I also feel needs to be addressed at some point in beta. But really, other than these situations and some merging onto highways and turns like that, they're getting a lot better, but I think that they have improved a lot, and these are just some very critical areas in cases that aren't not necessarily highly occurred cases. So these are cases that don't happen very often, but they do still happen, and they need to be accounted for. So with that, if you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.